Hello and welcome back to another episode of Altered States. Myself, Josh Gape, Harry Williams, and our guest today, James Buckingham. How's it going?
Good, thanks Josh. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again. I think from the first step, you were definitely the most requested to come back on. So,
that's very kind.
And one of the things that I really wanted to sort of speak to you about was more than any question or comment relating to any episode we've done, people have mentioned to me about the rice pudding thing so many times, so I definitely want to get into that today.
And actually, that was a throwaway comment, and I afterwards I went, "Should I have said that?" And yeah, it's fine.
But so you had to say it. Yeah. You definitely had to say it.
Well, I realised. I think maybe I should explain a bit further about the whole body composition thing and whether you deserve it. But yeah.
Yeah, we can dive into that. How's everything with you, Harry? You alright?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Hopefully back week after next. So yeah, it's kind of flown. It's kind of gone by pretty quickly, to be fair. Since December having the up and touch wood, everything will be okay. It's still not 100% like right, but I think a lot of it's it's just more awareness of it and stuff like that. Awareness of the operation side, like muscles around it, that kind of thing.
How sort of into training are you? Are you doing contact?
No, I'm not doing contact. So you wear a red bib. So when you wear a red bib, you don't do full contact. You just sort of touch, just two-handed touch.
Any scrummaging?
Next week, full. Just doing like 2-on-1s, that kind of stuff. Just putting weight from my back and that kind of thing. You can't once you're on like the slope to getting fit, they just say you're like ready to go in, and that's it. I mean, you're back in with the GP general population.
Which elbow is it? Is it your like?
It's my left elbow, so it's the one that I'm on the hook with.
Yeah.
So it feels a little bit, it gets held into like real hard extension when binding. So
yeah.
But I think I'm feeling pretty confident about it and stuff like that. I'm sort of on like the right timeline of what they said it would be sweet and all that, you know.
Yeah, nice.
What about you? How's the?
Been sticking to your homework, doing your rehab.
Doing my rehab, yeah. Eating my bones.
Yeah.
Also, the bone complex.
Yeah, the whole bone matrix.
The whole bone matrix. Yeah.
That's your name, that was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all going good with me. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Just been super busy with work. You know how it is. I was like, when we did we outsourced our distribution, so I was like, oh great, I'm gonna have some time back. Yeah. And then you get a little bit of space in your life, and the universe just manages to fill it up real quick.
Yeah, that's true.
But I managed to get down PFP for the first time in ages, which was good.
Good to see you going near the toe.
I pulled my back. I was telling Harry before that, I pulled my back.
What's a bit of back spasm?
I don't know if you know about this. I've been getting so whenever I squat, as soon as I go below power level, I get like a weakness, I suppose, in my legs. Not like a pain. It's like a shooting sensation, and my leg just gives way.
Ooh, front or back?
So it starts the back of calf and it shoots like round into the shin almost. I'm now using the podcast time to.
Is it a pinch in the back? Like a sciatica type thing?
Well, so when I felt it, when I was training at PFP on Saturday, I like shifted my body to compensate, and that's how I threw out my lower, and it's the left lower part of my back that I threw out, so I don't know if they're kind of connected.
Well, the sciatica will go from your lower back right through your piriformis and then down all the way. So you might want to have a look at your back.
Yeah.
It's worth checking out. But use a safety squat bar then, because it's much more friendly on your knees and everything else. So who knows?
Well, I'll give that a go tomorrow. I'm going to come back down tomorrow morning.
I'll show you, mate.
So
yeah, quite severe back spasm. We had to cancel his dinner plans.
Yeah, exactly. Cancel my Saturday evening dinner plans.
That was post Valentines.
No, so Valentines is on the Monday.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
You obviously did something special for it.
Yeah, I think I did.
You celebrate Valentine's, James?
What do I think about Valentine's?
Did you celebrate Valentine's Day?
No.
Not at all. Nothing.
No.
No cards. No chocolates.
Nothing.
I think
it's ridiculous.
You do, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
You're going for a massive teddy bear.
I don't. So you know my feelings on these sort of like public holidays. I know they're all shams, but at the same time, it's like Christmas. You're a big fan of Christmas.
Listen, Valentine's Day and Christmas they're not on the same. There's different. If there's like tiers of holidays,
That's
Christmas
true.
would be the top, with probably birthday, and then Valentine's Day is way down. Valentine's below Easter.
I was just
and
about
Easter's
to say
quite a minor holiday.
Do you celebrate Easter? Yeah, but I think it's that
Shrove Tuesday is Valentine's Day.
It's a nice excuse to go out for a meal, man. That's what I think.
Yeah,
I love going out for a meal.
But anyone in the trade of feeding you would say never go out on Valentine's Day because you're just getting all sorts of crap because everyone's out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, well, that's why we were going
So
out
the
on
next
Saturday.
day,
But then obviously,
back spasm.
and that was all done with. So I didn't celebrate Valentine's Day this year either.
Fair play.
All right, so James, let's get into it. Rice pudding. So after the first podcast, Harry turned around to me and said, I'm eating rice pudding every night.
No.
His sister turned around to me and said she's eating rice pudding every night. Lewis, the guy that does all the audio stuff for us, is eating rice pudding every night. So my question was kind of a little bit more context around the rice pudding, you know, because I know we're both of a similar sort of thought mind set in terms of you got to earn your carbs.
Yeah.
So do you want to unpack it a little bit?
Fine. So if we decide that you want to have some form of carbohydrates, then you've got to pick them. You probably want to stay away from kind of your grainy type ones, your classic grainy wheat type carbs.
Yeah.
So therefore, where you go left, you maybe got oats. I know that's a grain, but slightly different, right? But the most non-offensive carb would be white rice, and for all those reasons about lectins and anti-nutrients, blah blah blah. So you want the pure glucose, and it's nice, right? So if you decide you want carbs, you go for that one.
Sorry, would you say that's on a par with fruit? So like white rice and fruit?
Slightly different because it's a different carb makeup. Whereas fruit, high in fructose, nothing wrong with that, of course. But is it oleosaccharides or something in rice? It's a slightly different matrix, as it were.
Okay. Slower absorption.
It's not that really. It's just it's less obtrusive to the gut. So, but you know, there's nothing wrong with an apple or banana. It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
It's not offensive to the gut. But white rice would appear to be one of the best kind of you can eat loads of it options.
Yeah.
So if you decide to have rice, go with that. Oh, sorry, carbs, go with that. But then you've got to think. Firstly, did I do anything today to deserve a glycogen replenishment? Did I do anything at all? If you think, yeah, I did a bit of training, or I did a game, or I did whatever you did, or I worked hard, fine. So therefore, maybe glycogen replenishment. Although you know you can replace glycogen without carbs, of course, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can do some glycogen replenishment, and I'm going to go for white rice because that was probably less offensive, or an apple or a banana, or all of the above. Then you think, if I'm trying to get leaner for whatever reason, whether it be just body composition, you want to look better on the beach, your skin folds to be better, whatever reason, then you might decide whether you have it or not. Yeah. And the other thing is if carbohydrates will increase your performance, let's say your sport is glycolic, why not have some, so they're the three criteria I think that you probably want to consider.
So it's not just a simple case of smashing rice pudding every night?
Not really. You've got to when I was really into all this stuff, then I wouldn't have carbs unless I trained that day and if I was lean enough and all that stuff. So I'm really religious kind of. But
did you find that your sleep was affected when you weren't eating? Because that's the one thing, after we had the last podcast, you said having some carbs at night helps your body go into like a parasympathetic state. And I definitely felt that. But then, by the same token, if you're on like high fat, high protein with no carbs, do you find that affects your sleep quality?
No, I don't. It helps me. But there is a certain element of, if let's say you're on really, really low carb and then you have some form of fairly spiky, carb rice pudding or whatever it might be, or rice with a banana in it, or an apple all chucked in together, fine, if you want to do that, I don't see the problem. But there is a certain insulinic effect, so as the insulin goes up, then then what comes up must come down, and that can wake you up an hour later.
Oh, right.
So you might find, I conk out for an hour or two, and then I'm awake again. But actually I find it's not necessarily the case. And as I said to you, I think last time, if let's say you have that and you wake up in the night, a surefire way to get back to sleep is have a banana and 3 or 4 magnesium capsules beside your bed. Eat that when you go for a wee and then knock you out again. It's just that tryptophan thing,
Is that magnesium glycinate? Is that the one that's best for sleep?
I prefer glycinate because magnesium, good for calming you down. Glycine, good for calming you down. They both combine together, magnesium glycinate. Yeah. And therefore it's a double whammy of good.
That's one of the reasons why people say bone broth is good for sleep as well, because glycine. Because that's one of the things my twist on the rice pudding was I was just cooking rice and doing it with a scoop of bone broth concentrate in there.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's really nice as well. It tastes delicious.
That is a great idea.
Your take on rice pudding was doing savoury white rice cooked in bone broth. That's not
with chicken hearts.
That's not.
So
that's
pulling it back a minute with your question, right?
Yeah.
My point on that would be there's more than one way to manage stress. So what James explained before was cortisol goes up, you can eat carbohydrate source to raise insulin to lower cortisol to help you manage sleep, right? Brings the stress hormone down, you get to sleep easier. But if you've trained that day, great. That's a really easy, you think, oh, I've earned my carbs, I can do this. This is the way to help me sleep. If you haven't trained, meditation, breath work, there's other means by which you can manage those cortisol levels before you go to sleep. So it's a case of self-mastery really, and just rather than mindlessly doing the same thing every day, thinking, have I earned the carbs today, I can eat them today, or no, I haven't, I'll do something else instead.
Yeah.
Pulling it back, just want to drill down on one of the points you made. You mentioned about white rice being a friendlier carb, fruit similar. You touched on oxalates. Yeah. This is something I get all the time. People are obsessed with anti-nutrients because of Paul Saladino talking about them all the time.
Yeah. I think he kicks the ass out of it, to be fair, but yeah.
How much of an issue do you think anti-nutrients actually are?
I think if you are full on eating loads and loads of veg and loads of food containing anti-nutrients, I think it's a big issue.
Yeah.
But if you're just having a little bit here and there, then I don't think it's a big issue at all. In fact, I was thinking about this the other day and I think a little bit of poison will actually have a better effect.
Yeah.
A lot of poison probably bad.
Yeah.
A little bit, if you call it poison, it has an effect on homeostasis, doesn't it?
So it would be cool to drink a little bit of cyanide in their coffee after this.
You know what I mean. Hopefully you know what I mean. But a little bit of it is probably good.
Did we talk about the anti-nutrients last time?
We've spoken about them before,
because it's basically when it's the plant's natural defense system, right? So they're not meant to be eaten.
Yeah. Was it the way Paul Saladino explains it? It's like animals can fight or run, so that's their defense mechanism. Where plants have these anti-nutrients in them to prevent people from overeating them, and then with fruit, because they have seeds in, obviously they want to be eaten because when you shit them out, that's how they spread their seed.
Yeah.
So
and that whole thing about fructose, an apple. So what if it's got a bit of fructose? Of course it's not bad, and of course it's a very good. It replenishes the liver. Too much spills out into triglycerides, but a little bit of fructose from a whole apple or a banana or whatever you. Jesus. Yeah. The thing, of course, is then you have to remember that all year round we didn't have these fruits, so you'd be on a fairly carnivore-ish type thing for a certain part of the year. Then fruit would turn up, you'd eat that. So you wouldn't just ignore it. The whole getting slightly off kilter here, but the whole carnivore thing, in my view, is just slightly against nature.
Yeah.
If in a way, but.
Yeah, and I was actually speaking to someone about this earlier as well. Like a lot of people do follow the carnivore diet because they'll be experiencing some sort of gut issue.
Yeah.
And then they'll cut out everything but animal products. It'll resolve the gut issue. But then the problem is as soon as they add stuff back in, it just kind of flares straight back up.
Yeah.
So, there's different ways of dealing with these things. I've been looking into a little bit, like MCT oil acts as an antimicrobial. So it'll kill off
like coconut oil, that type of thing.
MCT is a derivative of coconut oil. Aged garlic also works for it, where it'll kill off some of the bad bacteria, but it doesn't affect the good bacteria. So it's like an antibiotic, but a better version. Yeah. But it's not as intense, of course.
Yeah. That whole carnivore thing. But if you let's say you decide you want to heal yourself, and there's loads of people with gut issues, and one of the main issues for gut issues is because we're high stress, and high stress makes our gut lining perforate slightly, and we've got that leaky gut thing because there's only one cell thick. I don't know if we spoke about this last time, and therefore we've got all sorts of shenanigans going on downstream. So let's say you think, right, I've got leaky gut, and I've got stress, and I've got inflammation, I've got bad skin, I've got all these things that can manifest itself. So I want to heal my gut, so I go a carnivore style thing, and that nearly always is going to work because that's our main thing we should be eating, in my opinion. But then if you put back in what's causing you issues in the first place, it's going to cause problems. But if you don't put all that wheat and gluten and stuff that's clearly bad for you, then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's why when we talk about a carbohydrate that is non-offensive, white rice is way better than brown rice.
Yeah.
Because white rice is just pure. And if you want carbs, you go for the pure stuff. Whereas for brown rice, it's wrapped up in anti-nutrient husk. So all of a sudden you've got this double whammy of, you see what I mean, it causes gut irritation.
And is that why, like the conventional, I don't know, like your GP or whatever will tell you brown pasta and brown rice is better because it's got more fibre?
Yeah, two things. One is they say it's got more fibre, which I think, well, we can talk about fibre. And two is, they say, and it's less glycemic index, it absorbs. But actually, if I'm going to have carbs, I don't care what absorption is. It's what I'm in me. So my point back to that is, if you deserve your carbs, if you've earned them that day, and they'll benefit you, and you've got a glycolic sport, and why not have a bit of carbs? Then have them, but have the ones that don't fuck you over.
Okay.
White rice would probably be the best one, or really, really well soaked oats, like 24-hour soaked. In milk.
Break down the anti-nutrients.
Yeah.
Do you put any? Because don't you have to add something like a little bit acidic to break down the anti-nutrients?
I don't know. All I do is put in a shed load of milk, a bit of salt. And then later, when it's soaked for 12 hours at least, 24 hopefully, then I add in honey and bits.
Really good. Overnight oats are ridiculous.
Well, it's like an overnight oats situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
you can see.
Rice.
I thought oats were bad.
They're a grain.
Sorry, I don't want to generalise like that's what. Yeah, because they're grain, right?
They are a grain for sure, but in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather have oats than wheat. If you know what I mean, because wheat is, in my view, way worse. But oats that have soaked and tried to do the best of getting rid of the crap in there, I think it's fair enough. But if you want to be real geeky, then white rice would be my go-to carb in the evening to help you sleep, for the serotonin effect, for the calming down the cortisol and all that good stuff.
Because ancestrally, we would have always prepared our foods, right? Like you would have soaked. Well, I think with grains and even with like the wheat they made bread from and stuff, they would have a different preparation method for how they process that, which would break down the anti-nutrients before they even baked it.
And even the ingredients themselves were better. Like fruit nowadays is really, really sweet, whereas back in the day it wasn't sweet and all this stuff. And so, I still wouldn't touch it though.
Strictly organ meats and...
actually on the way here we're going to have mince and kidney and... I had a carrot in there, so it wasn't too bad.
Alright, okay, so I think we've well established now. I wonder how many people are just going to go from eating rice pudding to overnight to oats.
You should do
that's the take-home message. So should we segue into fibre, because we kind of touched on it in the end there. And kind of, so I've been going back and forth with this personally, because you listen to Paul Saladino and Sean Baker and people that sit in the carnivore community, and they're like, we don't need fibre. I know there's been a few studies looking at people on a carnivore diet and how their gut flora changes and stuff, but I don't think there's been any extensive research done. And then you've got people like Zach Bush on the other side, who I also really respect, who talks about the importance of eating a wide variety of stuff to promote diversity of your gut microbiome, how important that is for immunity and neurotransmitter production, all this sort of stuff. I know fibres, like what you said last time, you'd written a book on it, a little ebook.
Oh really?
I disowned it though, do you remember?
Oh no, you had you. Denounced your own work.
Just trudging that back up.
So therein lies the conflict, a wide variety of green leafy vegetables and all that business. But so fibre is basically two, isn't it? You've got your soluble and insoluble, porridge being your soluble stuff, which holds more water and stuff. So let's break it down into the gut thing. Conventional wisdom, which should always be questioned, and why wouldn't it be? But anyway, conventional wisdom, which we all thought, and I absolutely bought into as well, says that we need to eat fibre, whether it be from soluble or insoluble sources, whatever really, but fibre, in order to get all our nutrients down through peristalsis, which makes our food go down towards our colon. That's the first point. And then, more importantly, that fibre, that undigestible fibre, then interacts with the gut microbiome, produces short-chain fatty acids. So far so good, right? That's all good. Mm-hmm. One of those short-chain fatty acids, which is what they say is kind of the main man, as it were, is butyrate. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, and the other butyrate there. And that's the daddy, as it were, for gut health and all that stuff.
What, because it feeds the bacteria within your gut?
It feeds the bacteria. Well, because it interacts with bacteria, it produces butyrate, and that then repairs the gut lining and makes sure everything down there is healthy and working, for want of a better word. There's different intricacies to that, but one of a better word, fibre, we don't digest it all, it interacts with the gut flora starts eating away at that, produces butyrate, which then recycles into helping repair our gut lining and keep it healthy and blah, blah, blah. Winner, right?
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true as far as we can tell. But then if we think about now, if we're on a low carbohydrate diet, which most folks probably are that listen to this podcast, or you do intermittent fasting or fasting, then your carbohydrates are reduced. You then produce ketones, and these ketones are produced in the liver. There's the ketone bodies, but one of these ketone bodies, guess what, is beta-hydroxybutyrate that further breaks down into butyrate, the same stuff that goes into your colon and your intestinal tract to keep it healthy and happy. So now we've got butyrate from ketone sources, no carbohydrates at all, no fibre, no nothing, from ketone sources produced by the liver, keeps our gut happy and healthy, and also not more important, but interestingly, it has a global effect. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just here in my gut, this butyrate has a global effect. So,
positive global effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So whichever way you jump, the fibre thing, and that produces butyrate, which is apparently the daddy, or you go down the ketone line and it produces butyrate as well. So the body ain't stupid. And then if we look at when we're hunter-gatherers and when the winter, there's probably no vegetation around or fruit around. Yeah. You're probably going to eat an animal if you can find one. Therefore, you're going to produce ketones, but your guts are going to be fine. Yeah. Then we look at that and then you think, do I need a wide diversity of gut flora in the winter? Maybe not. In the summer, maybe I do. So, you know, it's yin and yang. Yeah. I don't know. Truthfully, I'm just hearing what other people, I've studied a lot of this and listened to a lot of these things. And I've got quite personal experience of this, which we can talk about as well if you want to. Yeah, if you're happy to share. Of how the guts are most important, and if you kind of cock it up, it can lead to all sorts of problems. I don't know waffle, but does that answer the kind of fibre thing? So yeah, it can be good, but if you're worried about anti-nutrients and the fact that it doesn't feel good, or these vegetables and that cause gut irritation, oxalates, what are the other things? Lectins, all these anti-nutrients. Yeah. Then maybe you don't want to have that, because there's so many people now, stress and these anti-nutrient food are causing all sorts of issues. Yeah,
I think for me it always comes back to, if I'm not sure about something, I just think, how did our ancestors used to live?
Exactly what I think, yeah.
And it makes sense, right? Especially in colder climates like this part of the world, in the winter, you wouldn't have access to fruit or vegetables, or not a lot. And then in the summer you had more, so our diet would have adapted, so our bodies are designed, by the sounds of it, to be able to do both.
In my opinion.
And we should probably, to the best of our ability, kind of like mimic how we were ancestrally, because that's how our body's designed to and evolved to be. And I think people don't realise, we haven't had, modern society hasn't been around for very long at all.
10,000 years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a blink of an eye in terms of human history on this planet. So our body's not designed for this modern environment. It's been designed for like living out in the wilderness, catching our food, hunting, gathering, etc. And now all of a sudden we're indoors. We got access to food year round. You can fly. People, flying avocados, bananas, papaya.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, but there you go.
So yeah. Okay. Well, if you're happy to share, should we dive into your story in the fibre department?
Well, yeah. It's vaguely correlated, isn't it? Because back in 2019, so 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And you get diagnosed with these things. I've got a funny story about that, by the way. And you think, okay, how does this happen? So I eat loads of green leafy vegetables, loads of it, and I used to preach the ultimate diet would be a vegan diet with meat on top. That's what I used to do, kind of stuff.
50% vegan, 50% carnivore.
Pretty much. So, but loads of leaves and blah, 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 and you get away with murder because, it reduces the acidity and the antioxidants and all that stuff. And now I think that's a load of old bollocks. Because your main antioxidant should be glutathione, which is internal, But anyway, we can talk about that.
And cholesterol maybe as well.
Oh God, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, we'll come to that later on, I'm sure. So I thought, how have I, who preaches nutrition, written a book about it, blah, 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 how have I got colon cancer, which nearly always people say it's dietary related. Back in the day, they used to say that. So I look back and go, okay, what happened here? Okay, I've been unlucky, fair enough. 50% was going to get cancer, fair enough. I was just one of those things. What else has been constant in my life? And I don't want to make it sound like my life's better or worse than anyone else's, but it's a fairly high stress life since I was about 6, but I won't, military and all that stuff. So that's certainly an issue in my opinion. And if you're that type of person anyway, who's a stressor, so you've got all these things, and then I think added on to that was loads of, this is conjecture, but loads of leaves and antioxidants, oxalates and things that the body doesn't want, all these things mixed together, and I think I've just been unlucky. So luckily I did chemotherapy, I had a colostrum bag, all sorts of fucking shit, but and now I've only got a bit of a colon left, which is actually interesting from a petri dish point of view. And then I think to myself, I don't want to die, so now I eat pretty much carnivore within reason.
Yeah.
And people say, geez, that's the worst possible thing, that's the most unhealthy thing for your gut.
Who said this? The doctors
Well,
say this?
people will, and people certainly. There's a couple of medical folks that I know from the gym, and they kind of go, "Don't do that, mate. It's going to kill you stand there." But I don't want to die. I'm not stupid. So I mean, well, actually, I don't eat fibre at all. I wouldn't eat a leaf now. If you give me a bowl of salad now, that's medicinal, mate. I'm not eating that shit. I'll rub it on my face to get rid of spots or something, but no way I'm going to eat it.
You're no leafy greens.
I won't touch the stuff because I think that cuts through you, and I think it's pointless and it's an anti-nutrient. Why would I eat leaves when I can eat steak or liver or heart or nose to tail? Why would I eat? So
I totally agree.
You're in good company here.
We're preaching to ourselves. We're giving ourselves
Yeah, that's just an echo chamber.
So you go nutrients from an animal would be the ultimate. Then if there's no animals around, we know this anyway, you go and get maybe a tuber or a piece of fruit or something, there's none of that around, then you might eat some shitty bloody lettuce or broccoli or spinach or kale, what's that about?
Yeah.
But that's your final, that's the, oh fuck.
It's a bit of a shit hunter, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when I wrote that book, I was a shit hunter. But interestingly, so let's say now I've kind of gone down this line of
imitating the diet of a shit hunter.
Yeah, this is a shit hunter diet. This one.
I should have
couldn't even get fruit off trees. You have to get land growing vegetation.
I'll rename the book rather than call it Lean Living. I'll call it Shit Hunter Diet. So then you think, okay, I don't want to die, so I'm going to eat animals. And since then we could talk about poo as a clue, throwaway line, but it's true. So then you eat animals and I'm energized, I'm stronger than I've ever been. Not to talk about myself, but you know what I mean? Because that can't be right, and hardly any carbs on board. I'm not eating any antioxidant vegetation. It's all, in my view, incorrect.
Yeah.
Because as you well know, you get all the nutrients you need, if you eat nose to tail. Even phytochemicals you get if you eat an animal, phyto being plants. So Does that? So let's say then I eat something that's dodgy, or I take the kids out for a curry the other night, for example, and there's loads of spice, and I had a bit of their food and had a little bit of naan bread and just tiny bits of shit.
Which curry house did you go to?
I went to one in Huntington.
Any good?
It was actually alright, yeah. It was called the Gurk or something or other.
Gurk Cottage, by
Gurk,
chance. It's quite common.
I don't know what it was.
It's a common sort of. What did you have? Did you have a chicken tikka? Or
No, I had a mixed grill, of course, like any
good, respectable man.
But the kids had all sorts of shit.
Any man with a backbone would.
And the point being, next day I was working away and I was farting like a trooper, and my pooing, I wasn't a one wiper. Now, what do I mean by one wiper? In the animal kingdom, an animal has a toilet, it doesn't have to wipe its ass for 20 minutes, does it? Whereas if you eat the wrong thing, you're going to be back there wiping for hours, as in 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 wipes.
Yeah.
You should just be a poo, snap it off, one wiper, job done. And that's a big clue. I know it's quite funny, but it's a massive clue. You're definitely eating the right thing, in my view.
Yeah.
And since I've eaten meat mainly, not all, as I say, I'm not stupid. We certainly should be eating some fruit and some tubers maybe occasionally, of course, and rice and whatever. My poo is absolutely fine and it doesn't stink. And I remember Phil Richards So I'm banging on about poo. Phil Mitchell is very respected. And he was saying years ago, I did an internship with him for a week up in Swansea. That was a place to tell you. And he was saying, you're pushing stink, he was saying. And I went, shut off, mate, poo, you know. And actually now I've learnt more, and he's absolutely right. After that curry, which is quite useful, but I had it.
It's notoriously bad, isn't it, for the old...
If a curry, like a mutton vindaloo, that's going to wreak havoc with it. I can't imagine that's what your boys are ordering. That's going to obviously...
My little boy, he's...
Take the shreds, man.
He's hardcore, my little boy. He's...
Korma?
He's now, one of them's a korma boy, and the other one's Joe Frazee.
That's quite for little you as well.
12-year-old lad.
So I know you mentioned the doctors there, and I don't want to sort of feel like we're ragging on doctors. It's not like that at all. But you're saying the doctors are saying that's going to kill you stone dead, eating the meat and whatnot. Do you think that it's just not something that they would have bothered to look into, or they're just basically quoting what they've seen, or what they're taught, I suppose? Because it does seem, and I'm not saying this is a purely, I've actually noticed this with a lot, not all, by the way, I'm not like condemning all strength and conditioners, doctors, and scientists to a degree, from what I can see from the outside, is it seems very much like they have a point of view and then they stick to that point of view, and any conversation outside of that is seen as like stupid. And the response to your question is basically, you're stupid. Like the door's closed on that, it's already been decided. And a lot of these people haven't even considered an alternative path or tried something different themselves. Yeah. So do you think it's more that they have just heard it from someone else secondhand, and that they deem to be above them in the pyramid, and that's their source of information, and that's it?
I think it's very, very difficult to unlearn something you've learned, isn't it? And conventional wisdom, and if you buy into it, and bear in mind we're not doctors, are we? So I'm not trying to say.
No, of course not. Yeah.
But equally, some very bright people have said, James, don't just do that. That's going to cause you all sorts of issues. And I said, well, I didn't. So I think, yeah, there is a certain element. And there's another example of that with my little boy who's got Addison's disease, and also at the same time he had a problem with his gut where he couldn't swallow anything. And they were giving him omeprazole, which is like one of these antacid things.
Yeah, it's supposed to calm you. They give it to you after they're giving you anti-inflammatories, stuff like that, eh?
Well, yeah, but what it does is it stops your stomach producing enough acid because it dampens down the acid, which can cause issues of its own. The more acid you have in your stomach, the better. The less acid you have, you get acid reflux. So it's an odd thing. So, and then they give my little boy omeprazole all the time. I said, please don't give him omeprazole, can we? Anyway, what you're saying is it's what they learnt.
Yeah.
But equally, they saved his life, so thanks, lads. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of that. Don't want to get too high horsey about these things.
There's a lot of the time I think, well, it's a lot of why people stay in relationships that have been going on for years. I feel it's almost, even though they're not happy, it's because you've invested so much time into that way of thinking or that relationship that you don't want to then say you were wrong and either break up or change your point of view. You're like, I've already, say a personal trainer or strength and conditions had this method of doing things, and they realise that there's a far better method, but you've already invested years into the stuff you're already doing, so I may as well just keep on cracking on. It's why archaeologists cover up all these ancient civilizations. Egypt, wherever conversation goes, Egypt ain't far around the corner. Yeah?
Sam Harris should be listening to this him right now. But I think you're right, because if you think about what's medical school, like 5 years, some people go for 7 years. And before that as well, probably people that go to become a doctor, they've got a pretty clear idea they're going to become a doctor. So they focus very much on science when they're doing their A-levels and stuff. And a lot of people that become doctors are the sons and daughters of doctors, you know what I mean? So there's generational...
almost cultish.
Indoctrination.
Almost, to be part of my own cult, I say that with
and like I completely agree with you. There's stuff about the medical system which is great, and it's come on leaps and bounds. And there's certain things which are done amazingly, save a lot of lives. But I kind of don't want to dive into this yet because I got a few questions about what you spoke about. But I've been looking at drawing a blank. Cholesterol. Writing an article on it at the moment, and when you look at the National Health Service guidelines around cholesterol, and then you look at a lot of the recent data plus what a lot of the top functional medicine doctors are saying, it's just completely different information. So you do realise that just because it's on a website like the NHS or WHO, or it's coming out of your GP's mouth, doesn't necessarily mean it's right. But it doesn't mean it's wrong either. It's like you've got to take this. I think you've got to take information with a pinch of salt and do your own research. My questions on what you just said was, obviously you're really healthy guy. Well, since I've known you, super healthy guy. So when you got that news, was it like a massive shock?
Yeah. So actually, it's quite funny in a weird sort of way. So you kind of go, this ain't good. So the story is, it was a shock, but it's a surreal moment. I was sat in the waiting room after having this camera up my backside, which I didn't quite enjoy.
Did you go because you thought there was something wrong?
Oh, that's another story. I'll tell you that in a minute. But anyway, this thing. So I sat in the waiting room, and the two nurses came and kind of wheeled me into this room. I thought, fuck. So I was like, they wheeled me in first, as in, not wheeled me in, but escorted me into the room. There's a small little, crappy little room, and there's a little shitty little desk, and a couch and a chair there, and one little flowery thing here in a vase, and a box of tissues. And I thought, either I'm going to get manual relief here, or they're going to tell me I've got cancer. Do you know what I mean? Sure enough, I knew it was coming, so I sat there. And my initial reaction was, which is another important topic, off the topic of what we're talking about, but they said, listen, Mr. Buckingham, you've got cancerous growth. And I kind of went, fuck. And then thinking worst case scenario, I said, okay, how do I get out of this? This is a bit dark, by the way. How do I get out of this if I have to? Meaning, how do I end it if I have to? This is the truth of what I said.
Yeah.
Which took him back a bit. But since then, and I was going through the chemo and then putting in, I had a colostrum bag. It's fucking great.
It's horrible, the chemo. It's terrible.
Yeah. But I was thinking to myself, if this doesn't work, I want to be able to end it. This probably, as I say, is a bit dark. I genuinely want it, not that I want to end it, but I didn't want to see I saw my mother die of cancer.
Yeah.
And it was awful for the poor woman. I don't want that to be me.
Yeah.
So how do I end it? So there's nowhere to go. They said, well, you go to Switzerland and go to Gravitas and end yourself there. And it's the most, for me anyway, and a lot of people I spoke to, the most unnerving and unhappy is the wrong word, but unnerving, not being in control of yourself. If it all gets too much, I want to end it. And there's nowhere in the UK you can do it. So I was going around to anaesthetists and dodgy people saying, how do I end it if I have to? It's not right, is it? You should have a choice.
Yeah, I've never thought of that. Yeah.
But believe me, it was the most unsettling thing not having it get out. If it looked like it worked. And I ditched the chemo after 3 months because it was just a bit too difficult. But I was able to, interestingly, train throughout. I was just tired and my skin's never recovered. I've got old man skin now, but that's never recovered.
Do you think that's because your body was so healthy that it was able to take on that extra stress and it didn't knock you for 6?
I don't know, mate, I've got to say, because no matter how healthy you are, if you've got stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, you're out of here type thing, near as damn it. But as a side note, which might call it back to the nutritional thing, I thought, fuck, how do I, chemo, and how I was going to counter the effects of this chemo, which ravaged you a bit, but equally, thank God, it cleared me. I mean, they also had an operation to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Hence, I've only got half a colon left. And then I went down and I paid a shitload of money for these magic powders with all the antioxidants in. Yeah. And all that shite. Yeah. And I took that and it tore through me. So that can't be right. How can that be right? It should be making me feel. So I ditched, I think 120 quid for a tub. You do anything when you're desperate, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I took it for a week and went, geez, that's
not ultimate fibre, is it?
No, but it was all that type of stuff. It's awful, antioxidant, anti-blah-de-blah, and Jesus, it was awful. So once again, coupled with that, or armed with this experience of vegetable extract type of thing, I thought, well, what else can I do? And I went down the, not quite carnivore, but as near as damn it, which we probably all do anyway. And thank God, my poo's fine, and my bowel, what's left of my bowel is fine. And if I eat the wrong thing, I don't want to interrupt you, mate, because my bowel is half compared to yours. Yeah, I'm quite an interesting case study for what comes out the bulb. Do you know what I mean? So
quick transit time.
Yeah, and it tells me really quickly if I've eaten something dodgy or not.
Yeah.
So once again, poo is a clue. It really is in for healthy, healthy.
Yeah.
So, because I thought that I was always like quite impressed when we spoke to you last time how regimented you are with your diet. I've been through periods where I've been really strict with myself, but like I do maybe a month, 6 weeks a year where I really dial my diet in to see if I can test myself. And I did a carnivore experience a couple years ago now, and I did a month carnivore, and that was interesting because like you said, all the stuff you're saying about pooing and stuff, I was like pooing once a day. It was like super clean. It was like none of that stuff, and no like gas at all. It was crazy. I didn't even like.
How are your energy levels and stuff?
It's good. My strength was up through the roof. You think about it, you're eating so much red meat, loads of creatine, but
all that.
The problem with me was we were like in an earlier stage of the company, so I wasn't paying myself a huge salary. So when I decided to do carnivore, I was like, right, I'll just eat the same amount of meat and just stop eating everything else. So I was eating way less calories than usual. So I started losing weight. So I want to redo the experiment. I suppose I could. I'm just thinking now. Probably, if I'm going to do it, I should probably do it and start it like now or pretty soon, because otherwise I'm going to get into the hotter months and I have to wait till next year. But I want to redo it now. I've got a bit more cash and like do it where I'm probably accounting for calories. Eating extra meat
or chucking a bit more fatty cuts and all that stuff. That'll take care of it. But you'll find that your strength once you adapt, which takes a bit of time. Your strength should actually improve. Which begs the question, do I need carbohydrates even if I've got a glycolytic sport? And then how do I replenish glycogen? If we eat carbs, we'll replenish you replenish the glycogen in your muscle and your liver fairly quickly. But if you don't eat carbs, you'll still replenish it, but it just takes a little bit longer. Which then probably mimics your hunter-gatherer thing. You wouldn't hunt it every day. You probably, see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it takes 24/48 hours to replenish your glycogen, that probably mimics what we would have done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got to, like you said, think back to what we are. But if you've got a glycolic sport and you're out running around all the time, then carbs could be your friend. See that kind of, it kind of falls back on itself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's definitely a level of, like, I know I said it earlier, but self-mastery, just rather than blindly doing the same thing every day, like thinking, what do I need? Did you notice any body comp change? When you got diagnosed, that was the catalyst which changed you from the 50% vegan, 50% carnivore diet to more of a carnivore diet.
Yeah, it took a bit of time with self-experiment, but pretty much.
Yeah.
I think luckily I also fell into reading other things, and it's just a bit of luck and then I just decided to do it, and thank God I did. Yeah.
And did you notice any body comp changes?
No, I'm stronger than, I'm 50, what am I, 56 now? Stronger than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Interestingly. I'm probably not as kind of stacked, not that I've ever been stacked, but I don't eat many carbs, and maybe in the evening occasionally we've discussed. My body composition has always been pretty much the same. I've stayed the same weight.
So you're stronger now in terms of, if you were looking at what metrics you're using there, like 1 rep max squat and stuff?
Yeah, if I do 1 rep max squat, deadlift, that.
Than you've ever been in your life at the age of 56. That's pretty fucking impressive.
I used to be, and I guess also I'm training that way, whereas when you're in the military, more endurance based. So there's a bit touch of that. But I'm an old fart now, but I'm still relatively strong. And the reason we say that is because the whole diet thing. Do we need carbohydrates to be strong and vital? Maybe not.
Yeah, I think
but they won't hurt you if you don't kick the ass out of it, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're doing lower rep stuff anyway, there's not that demand for it. It's.
Yeah, mate. I think once you adapt to it, the body will do what you tell it.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about that. If I'm endurance, I just go in and train. I don't even worry if I've eaten or not. I just get on.
It's going to be interesting because there's more and more people eating this way now. Like I think in modern times, since we've been recording how people have been training and how people have been eating and stuff, you haven't really had that many carnivores or big groups of carnivores. Yeah. Whereas for the first time now, you've got people, a lot of people. I heard Dominic D'Agostino talk saying that he did a 3-day fast and then he went and did a 10 rep max deadlift. session and stuff like that, and you're getting people doing these things, recording it, and you're hearing about it. So I think there's a completely new field to see whether people are going to be able to perform as well as they can on a high fat diet as they could in a high carb diet in terms of more endurance stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Right, okay. Should we get into...
What is the cholesterol?
Cholesterol.
High cholesterol, good.
High cholesterol, good. Yeah, there's a quite good summary.
Pretty,
actually.
That's a good starting point.
So I'll talk you through my thought process when I was going.
Hypotheses.
My journey of discovering around cholesterol. Right. So it got sparked. One of the bloke that listens to the podcast, he mentioned about getting some cholesterol results back and saying that he's changing his diet as a result. And I remember like reading and hearing on podcasts, maybe the standard narrative around cholesterol isn't quite right. So I thought, right, I'm going to dive into this. I really want to understand it for myself. So if you look at the NHS's website, they say if total cholesterol is over 5, and I think if LDL cholesterol is over 3, stop me here if I'm just talking like complete nonsense. 3 millimoles per litre in your blood.
I don't know the metric, but yeah, low is bad apparently, high cholesterol is bad as well. So yeah, I know what you're saying, so to say.
So yeah, that's bad. And then the classic, the standard of care is if you've got high cholesterol, you get given statins, which is cholesterol lowering medication. And Storm Eugene's is going absolutely mental in a minute.
Yeah,
so
the hail's just like sideways hail.
If you hear anything, it's like what's that film where the hail starts getting bigger and bigger, and next minute people are getting nailed with those massive rocks. Right, it's like
2012, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
Day after tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow. Yeah, that film. So a bit of a side note, but anyway. So cholesterol, so started digging into it, and then a lot of the studies, or the first 3 studies I looked at actually, all showed that people generally with cholesterol levels over 5 and under 7, I think men were, when their total cholesterol was between 5 and 7, they had lower all-cause mortality than when it was at 5, and lower cases of cardiovascular disease, which is like the classic thing when people say cholesterol's high. Suffer with cardiovascular disease. And then with women, it was basically the higher their cholesterol, the lower their chances of everything. It kept, so with men, it was like kind of like a U curve. Like as you went past 5 up to 7, your chances went lower, and then it kind of went back up. Whereas women, it was just a straight, sort of diagonal down. Like the higher your cholesterol levels, the less all-cause mortality, which is like any chance of death, and then the less cases of heart disease. So I was like, all right, okay, this doesn't tie with the classic narrative. And then when I started digging into it a little bit more, the whole, the like conventional story came out of, it's like over 50 years ago, they did some autopsies on a bunch of people that died of heart disease. And what they noticed was in their arteries that they had high levels of cholesterol. So this is where the hypothesis was drawn from. High levels of cholesterol kills people from heart disease. But then now the latest thinking is actually cholesterol acts as an antioxidant, and it's a signaler for inflammation in the body. So what happens is, I think LDL cholesterol is what goes from your liver, goes to the peripheries of your body to help manage inflammation. Whereas HDL is like kind of what shuttles the cholesterol back to your liver, and it's like kind of like a recycling process like this. So when someone's like chronically stressed, this vasodilates the arteries, right? And if you think about it from an ancestral perspective, again, like that book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, talking about like why animals don't have chronic stress, is an animal in the wild, zebra's getting chased by a lion, and it's really high stress situation, it escapes, and then 2 minutes later it's just kind of chilling, eating some grass on the side, and it's just like back to baseline. So in that instance, while it's trying to escape, running for its life, it's going to experience this vasodilation in its arteries. And then when it's doing chilling, its bodily processes, it's escaped, it's chilling, the bodily processes are going to take place where it's the same thing. So it's going to be sending cholesterol from the liver to the peripheries to help, tackle that inflammation they've just experienced. But fast forward to humans in the modern world, we're experiencing chronic stress for the first time ever, continuous stress all the time. So this process of cholesterol being sent to the periphery to help clear inflammation is happening constantly. And as a result of that, other particles like calcium ion are getting like built up, and it's causing these like artery roadblocks. So it's not so much the cholesterol causing the problem, it's actually the chronic stress that's causing the problem. So it's like someone said an analogy of there being a car crash on the motorway, and loads of ambulances going to save the people, and now you get a build-up of traffic on the motorway because of all the ambulances, and then blaming the ambulances for the car crash in the first place. Right. So it kind of then I was thinking, all right, okay, so what's causing this thing? And Chris Kresser's written a really good article about it, and I'll link it in the show notes, where he talks about the 6 reasons for high cholesterol, which is stuff like metabolic dysfunction, thyroid issues. There's certain types of gut issues like H. pylori and stuff like that all cause this. So, basically the summary I came to is, right, I'm not a functional medicine doctor. I don't know how to diagnose what the actual root cause of high cholesterol is. But I think the important message that I wanted to share was, if you go in and you're told that you've got cholesterol levels over 5 and they're high by conventional standards, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And you're much better off going to a functional medicine doctor, trying to work out the root cause. Yeah. Yes, any comments?
I do. So firstly, we have to think that the cholesterol is fatty substance, and it can't be transported very well in the blood because it's not water soluble. So it then jumps onto a amino acid to be transported. So that's lipoproteins, high density lipoprotein. LDL takes low density lipo fat protein. That takes stuff out. And it doesn't just take stuff out arbitrary. It goes, remember, all the cells in your body are made of cholesterol. Your brain functions well on cholesterol. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's a sex hormones, cholesterol.
That was the point that I should have probably started with. And this is like cholesterol's vital. You said, we create cells from it. We create sex hormones through it. It helps us synthesize vitamin D.
Yeah.
And the other thing that people don't realize is 70%, or it might even be 70 to 80%, is synthesized within the body. So we only get 30% from the diet.
Yeah. You, if you don't eat it, you make it because that's important.
Yeah.
So that's fair to sound like a layman. What is cholesterol?
It's a fatty substance made by the liver, and its job is to your skin.
Carry all the shit.
Sex hormones and vitamin D and all.
So you get like a jar of it, or that
it'll look gloopy and fatty. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
But it can't go through the blood well because it's a fat, so therefore it jumps on an
amino acid. That's how it gets transported within the blood.
So protein, yeah.
Hemoglobin.
Anyway, it goes then. It does what it. But the low stuff, low density.
Bro science right there.
It transports from the liver. This low density lipoproteins does what it's got to do, whether that be to fight inflammation, or whether it be to fix your cells, or whether your brain function or sex hormones, and then you rightly point out. Then the boat then comes back with the high density lipoproteins to take stuff back to the liver to be resynthesized. So that's fine. So the whole point of cholesterol being high, might not be a bad thing. Like you pointed out, it's not necessarily cholesterol. A better marker of your health would be triglycerides. Yeah. Maybe insulin. Maybe HbA1c. What the hell's that? That's a marker of 3 months worth of your blood work of your blood glucose. That's a really big one. Yeah. From a chronic atherosclerosis type thing. And the other one would be C-reactive protein. So C-reactive proteins, you're a marker of your inflammation. Yeah. The HbA1c is the marker of how good your blood works with glucose. Yeah. Triglycerides is what the fats you're eating or spilling out to become triglycerides. If that's high, that's not good, So all fats aren't good. And the other one, I can't recall what I just said. But anyway, the point is that they would be a much better marker of your overall health than just cholesterol. So as you say, so if you're on a carnivore diet, your low density lipoproteins were supposed to be bad, but not, go up. Yeah. There's no big deal. Great, because you're eating more, therefore more goes out, but the liver's producing their own, so it doesn't need to be, but they go up, but they're taken out through bile and out through poo. Yeah. So the body ain't dumb. Yeah. So the whole premise of cholesterol, once again, I'm a doctor, but it appears to me slightly skewed, like you said. Those other 4 markers I mentioned are probably better. Yeah,
and the point, so I listened to a podcast, these 2 functional medicine doctors I really like, and the one guy's like heavily into training. He's a bit he's in really good shape, and he said he hammers dietary cholesterol because he's going for 1 rep maxes and stuff like this. He wants his testosterone high. Yeah. Obviously, we create the sex hormones from cholesterol, so he eats loads of dietary cholesterol, and his total cholesterol is only at 4.1, and that's because he's utilizing so much of it. Yeah. So for an athlete, you're thinking, you'd want to be smashing quite a lot of dietary cholesterol. And I think the best food sources are scallops is a really good one. Eggs is probably the most famous one.
Carnivore style.
Carnivore style, yeah.
Basically, that's your nose to tail. Basically, is what you're after.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything that produces the hormone, favorable hormonal cascade, cholesterol will can't be bad, can it?
No.
Anyway, and statins, weirdly, what do statins do? Okay, so it lowers cholesterol, if that's a good thing. Bear in mind, I've already said you're probably better off looking at triglycerides and HbA1c and C-reactive protein.
Yeah.
But statins reduces cholesterol, but it also kills the CoQ10, your heart, the energizer for your heart. So you've got no testosterone, you've got no drive, you've got nothing.
That's really interesting because that's a common side effect of statins, isn't it? Men having heart attacks.
Yeah, and low
which is ironic because they give
really low
statins.
They're real poisonous things, right? They're terrible things.
I mean, I can't say because it's a bit contentious to say that, and I'm not trained.
I'm only saying it because both my granddads, the rest of souls, have taken both times they took them. One of my granddads, my mum's dad, stopped taking them immediately after taking them, so they were knocked in for 6. Yeah, started feeling terrible. Very, very low energy.
My old man had a heart attack, quite a number of years ago now, and fair play to him. It was like he had it, and he completely changed. He changed his diet. He started exercising more. He like really responded. He listened to the thing like Paul Check says, the pain teacher shows up, you've got to listen. He fair play to him, he really listened. But they put him on statins, and they only took him off because he went in and requested to be taken off them. Right. And it's funny, I wonder if he wouldn't have gone in and requested, you might have still been taking them on. You might take them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I think my dad's on them. But I just want to draw back, if I may, about the whole, the blood vessels and the whole cholesterol within the blood vessels, which covers. But actually, you're right. It's other factors within the blood vessels that cause the issue, and cholesterol whizzes out there to try to fix it. But because they're damaged by high triglycerides or whatever it might be, or the inflammatory C-reactive, but whatever's caused the damage, then the cholesterol gets blamed for it, like you've said. But of course, it's so it's just
so trying to repair it.
Yeah, exactly. So
triglyceride sugar.
Triglyceride is a form of fats. There's sterols, of which cholesterol,
so it's
triglycerides, and
vegetable oils.
All right.
So is that like a classic?
Yeah, well, that's one of the horrendous things about vegetable oil is it's very high in omega-6.
Yeah, which is inflammatory, right?
Which is a very high dose of, and also it's nearly always highly oxidized and fucked around with. So we wouldn't touch that stuff. Maybe you eat the vegetable, but not necessarily the vegetable oil.
Yeah. Well, so would eating vegetable oil raise triglycerides?
Yeah, I'd say yes, because if it has an inflammatory response, all these things are kind of this yin and yang thing.
Well, it definitely raise C-reactive protein. If that's a marker of inflammation.
Which then produce. Yeah, and if that goes up, then you've got all sorts of problems with the arteries again, because we've just discussed how the arteries get fucked over, and then something goes in to fix it, but actually doesn't.
Yeah,
like you've said,
creates a shitstorm.
It creates a shitstorm. What was it? I was just mentioned something popped into my head there. I can't remember. So
one of the points that kind of like one of the conclusions I came to in the article is that people just shouldn't be afraid of good sources of fat.
Good sources,
yeah, and the bad sources of fat, which ironically, when I was on the NHS website and you look at the food pyramid, they're actually encouraging people to eat vegetable oil on there.
Great.
These are like 1 or 2 portions of vegetable, and then it says 1/3 of your diet from high fibre carbohydrates, and they've got pictures of like bacon and stuff.
And grains, and that once again that makes it worse because it's caused an inflammatory response, and then the whole thing comes on again. It's mental. Then you take the tablet to get rid of that. Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But I was just on about omega-3, I don't know why it popped into my head, but vegetable oil. So everyone would say, and I would kind of agree, omega-6, bad, omega-3, good. We kind of get that. And I accept that. But if we talk about processed food, so omega sits in oil formation, is processed, right? Kind of, can be, depends how shit the product is or how good the product is. But so I used to drink that by the bucket and take all my clients and say, get fish oil down there. I give people 30 grams of it a day once, you know what I mean?
Expensive stuff.
Yeah, but now I think, well, just get some fish oil. Sorry, just get some fish roe, like this little eggs. Yeah. So for example, a really good heart-healthy breakfast, high in omega-3s and anti-inflammatory and vitality would be steak, egg, and fish eggs on top.
That sounds unbelievable.
It's amazing and it's wonderful, beautiful. Put some salt on there for added benefit, not worse, by the way.
So not crunchy nut cornflakes.
Not crunchy nut.
With red top milk and a side of toast with Nutella.
No, my poor boy is toasted really. Anyway, so that's how you get your omega-3s, from the meat, from the egg, and from the fish eggs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Surely.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
It sounds unbelievable.
That's what would I do if I wanted to
have a go-to.
Sharp brain. Yeah, if I wanted a sharp brain and vitality and not be a fat old 56-year-old bloke that can't get it up, just type of thing, I would make sure I eat that rather than
What about, because I know people are going to be wanting to know this, so that's your breakfast. What's lunch, or do you skip lunch?
I fast occasionally. I used to, we could talk about fasting and how that affects ketones, but anyway, my lunch would normally be chicken thighs and a chopped up bit of fruit. So, or some gherkins, or some olives, or all of the above.
Yeah.
So it might be, let's say, 4 chicken thighs. I'm only a skinny guy, I'm only, 77 kilos, so 4 chicken thighs, sounds a lot, but it's not. Maybe some olives, gherkins, maybe a bit of cheese. And occasionally I chuck in an apple because I want a bit of sweetness, why not? What's wrong with apples? You know what I mean? And then dinner will usually be some meat. Or I used to preach fish, but I can't be bothered with fish, but I should, is what I'm saying. But the other day it was, I slow cook it was just mince with kidney and some other rubbish like a mushroom or 2 and some carrots, not needed, but and that's fine. So I'm not completely against these vegetables, but I think more tuberish type of mushrooms I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
But certainly leaves I don't bother with. And then if I've trained and I fancy it, and I'm not too bothered about having an 8-pack or anything like these days, then if I fancy it, I'll have some rice pudding or some rolled oats. But I'll never have oats that I've just made. I'll always, I'm just saying that for the camera, I'll always soak them. And then I don't get an irritated gut, bear in mind what I said about I'm a good petri dish because my guts are only half what you've got. So you can get away with murder, whereas I can't because I'll be on the loose straight away.
I can't anymore. I remember I used to eat, I used to have a cheat meal. I think at uni I used to have cheat days where I used to go go mental, Dominoes, cookie dough,
fish and chips,
the rest, all that. And now, if I have a bad meal, especially if it's too close to bed, I'm fucked.
You go next door.
I'm just like, I can't sleep. Or the worst thing is I'll sleep and I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm just like, wide awake. Knackers me. So
remember, have a banana and some magnesium.
Yeah, so have you got any other tricks for, like, if someone's going to have a meal off, any way to mitigate that or something, fasted walking the next morning, is there anything you throw in there?
Yeah, I think they should be guilt-free, really. I mean, I used to say, go for a walk, like they all say, go for a 10-minute walk 3 or 4 times a day. I think that's a great idea. But in reality, just don't worry about it, but get on the horse the next day, is what I would say. So don't be too anal about things, because, Jesus, but yeah, I think you should try to just, or indeed, let's say you go out, then maybe fast the next day until you get home from work. And I don't believe the whole fasting thing, I think that's got stupid. I think if you don't have these two, so let's say your last meal's at 8 o'clock at night, just don't eat again until you get from work at 6. You don't have to plan it out specifically, but I try to do more than 16 hours, 20 hours. You do that once or twice a week minimum.
Here's a question about fasting. When you're fasting, do you just have water, or can you have, like, say before you went to bed, could you have magnesium supplementation and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or would you just say you think that'd be okay?
Yeah, I think you're fine. And okay, there is some anything you take that's not water has a certain enzymatic reaction, but
It's minimal.
really, does it matter that much? Not really.
Why are you doing the fasting?
First, well, that's a great question. For me, a number of reasons. My main one is to give my gut, bear in mind my history, to give my gut a rest, and I think that's really under-explained. People talk about autophagy and cell clearance and telomeres being more lengthened, therefore increasing longevity and all that stuff. But for me, really, I just want to give my gut time to just clear itself and relax a bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I do it. And also, I find I train well when I'm hungry, and for those reasons you explained about when you're hungry and you're fat adapted, you should be your senses should pick up, and therefore you should be stronger, and that mimics nature, right? You wouldn't go hunting when you're full, and that's by I can't remember what it'll come to me in a minute, but ghrelin. Sorry, so when ghrelin, you're hungry, my belly's growling ghrelin. And that kicks in, and that increases vasodilation. It has a positive effect on you, increase your eyesight, increase your hearing, taste, all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what ghrelin does that. And you only get that when you're hungry.
Yeah.
So therefore, why the fuck is that? If I'm supposed to train when I'm full, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're supposed to hunt when you're hungry, of course. So for me anyway, I don't want to bang on, but if I'm hungry and I train, I get over that first 5 minutes. It's quite hard sometimes, I'm hungry. Once you get in, you cruise.
Yeah.
Fly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very interesting. We've rolled over an hour. We've gone to an hour and 6. We happy to wrap it up there? Any final questions?
No, I think that was wicked.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Another complete knowledge dump from James.
Thank you. I got tongue-tied there a couple of things. They'll probably look back and go, fuck, that was a lot of crap.
It was good. Honestly, you were the most requested person to come on, and also I got the most comments on the old rice pudding thing, so it's good
Change
to run
the goalpost now to porridge, sorry.
Yeah.
Rice was the best option.
Harry, do you want to do your...
Harry.Williams91, Instagram.
James, where can people find you?
I think I gave the wrong address now. You threw me, fuck. PFP 24/7 gyms, which are 2 gyms, one in Exeter, one in Colostrum, 24 hours. So.
And that's your if people want to get in touch with you, DM you on Instagram is the best way?
Instagram, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm _nutrition on Instagram. Any questions on there? If you like the podcast, please subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Leave us a comment if you fancy it.
Oh yeah, comment would be nice.
Discount code set up for the listeners of the podcast, AS10. You get 10% off any of the products on the Ape Nutrition website, apenutrition.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening. Peace.
Thank you.
James, you smashed it again.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, mate.
I hope I was coherent.
That's super coherent.
Thank you.
I thought that